I am now ready to move on to the other members in my group. I will start with Frankie Frank, and make sure that you input the first and last name for each group member. He deserves, in my opinion, a -2. So I click on the cell under the overall grade, click on the chevron, and I pick between -5 to +5. I set -2. When it comes to attendance, I give him average. When it comes to communication, poor. When it comes to leadership, average. This is also the place where you start thinking about how you will clarify for your professor why you, or in this case I, have selected these specific grades and performances for this member. I will now list the tasks that I assigned to Frankie, or pardon me, that were assigned to Frankie. Alright, so for contacting faculty advisor, I'm gonna say poor. When it comes to arranging for delivery of aggregate, incomplete. When it comes to uploading meeting minutes, good. And again, if more than 3 tasks were assigned, I'll show you in a moment or near the end of this video how to get about it. Okay, I'm now moving on to the justification for my ratings for group member Frankie Frank. In this cell, you, or in this case I, get to justify and or clarify the evaluation. So I'm going to clarify why I'm giving Frankie Frank such a poor evaluation. Okay, so at this point I'll just give you a chance to zoom in and read a little more closely what I chose to write about group member Frankie Frank that clarifies why I've given him such a poor evaluation. Essentially, it looks like in this case, Frankie Frank was assigned certain tasks which were not completed or poorly completed, and they actually had to be carried out by Francesco, as explained here. There's a notice that apparently Frankie Frank did apologize about this, and that if he does carry through with his promise, then I expect to increase my grade for the next peer evaluation, but at this point I stand by a -2. Then you can move on to the other group members within the group. The remaining members in my fictitious team comprise of Fran-Tan and Franny Manny. Now, don't worry if you have more than 4 members in your group, including yourself. I will show you near the end of the video or video series how to deal with this. So I'm going to go about filling this out a little bit, and through the magic of cinema, you won't even notice. Alright, so I've filled in to some extent the rest of the information regarding to the group members in my group. And again, don't worry if you have more than 4, including yourself. I'll show you by the end of the video series how to deal with that. Looks like member Fran-Tan only had 1 task assigned to him or her. And I'm going to say Fran-Tan performed as expected under the justification for that rating. This is a clear example of a poor justification for it. It doesn't tell your professor anything about the details of why you picked this kind of evaluation for member Fran-Tan, and is not helpful and will likely result in a poor grade for yourself. And then for member Franny Manny, apparently only 1 task, so I just make a note that this is where you would fill in the tasks for him, and here is where you would write whatever you would like according to the recommendations posted on Blackboard under peer evaluations. Great. Now that you've filled out this table to your satisfaction, you can click on the Peer Evaluation tab along the bottom, right here. You will notice that there are 4 cells with text in them on the page that you've just displayed. 1 for each member evaluated in the table. So if I zoom in to the topmost cell right here, you will see that all the fields you filled in for yourself have been turned into a semi-cohesive string of sentences to assist you with formulating an evaluation for yourself. If you were to change something about a member's evaluation in that table, it would automatically be reflected and updated in this string of text. Let me give you an example. If I were suddenly to choose, nope, I, for myself, don't think I deserve a +3, rather a +1 is more appropriate, then I could go back to the table, under Form to fill out, click on the overall grade I've given myself, click on the chevron, select a +1, then go back to the Peer Evaluation tab, and look at this. See how the 3 has changed to a 1? Excellent. Now, this is where your email program and possibly your CSI come into play. First, I go to the CSI to find my professor's email address. Here, I'm faced with two choices. Better still, actually, two options. If the email address is clickable for my professor, I click on it to find out that it automatically opens up a new email with the subject field filled in and addressed properly to my professor. So notice here, in the To field, my professor's email address has been included, and in the subject heading, everything has been filled in to some extent or another. Okay, now clearly you would change this field to write in your first and last name, your group letter, 5 words to describe your email content, and so on. If the email address for your professor is not clickable, then highlight it with your mouse. So I would click on it and highlight it. Then I right click on this highlight and I click Copy Link Location. Then I go to my email program, select New Email, go into the To field, and I paste. Your professor's email address is now pasted, and in this case also be sure to fill in the subject heading as appropriate. It's all dependent on the agreement that you've come to with your professor. In this case, for example, it would be 13F for the fall of 2013, ENG 4001. Great. I'm now ready to fill in this email.